There are women Hollywood never fully sees. Women who exist at the edges of someone else's fame, photographed at red carpets, written about in breathless headlines, and then quietly reduced to a single, cruel talking point. Keely Shaye Smith has been one of those women for the better part of 3 decades. And yet, when she stepped onto the red carpet at the Mobland premiere in New York City in April 2025, wearing a slim-fitting black lace minidress, her brunette hair swept back in soft waves, her arm linked through Pierce Brosnan's, she stopped traffic. The photograph circled the internet within hours. The headlines poured in. The world turned its head, stunned, as though it was seeing her for the very first time. But here's the truth that those headlines miss entirely. Keely Shaye Smith was always worth seeing. The world just wasn't paying attention to the right things. Born on September 25, 1963, in Vallejo, California, Keely Shaye Smith grew up between Hawaii and Southern California, shaped by coastlines, ocean breezes, and an early, bone-deep love for the natural world. Her first elementary school sat near the beach. She grew up in Newport and Huntington Beach, walking stretches of sand that she later described as gorgeous and unspoiled. As a child, she joined efforts to help save the Bolsa Chico wetlands, collecting trash on beaches, recycling cans to fund ecological field trips to Yosemite and Catalina Island, and developing a reverence for the environment that would define her entire adult life. This was not a woman shaped by vanity or the desire for celebrity. This was a woman who was shaped by purpose. After college, Keely moved to New York City in 1984 to pursue a career in acting and modeling. Within 3.5 years, she had filmed 25 commercials. In 1986, she appeared alongside Huey Lewis in the MTV music video for Stuck With You. In 1990, she took on the role of Valerie Freeman on the soap opera General Hospital. But she was never satisfied with the surface level of entertainment. Something deeper called to her. Storytelling that actually mattered, reporting that carried weight, journalism that served the world rather than just distracted it. She became an environmental correspondent for ABC's The Home Show, a position she held for 6 years, using national television as a platform to educate millions of viewers about biodiversity, toxic waste, wetland preservation, and the health of the planet's oceans. That work earned her 2 Genesis Awards, given to those in the media whose coverage makes a genuine impact on environmental awareness. She also received a Special Achievement Award at the 1991 Environmental Film Festival, along with a nomination from the Environmental Media Association. Women in Film, the Natural Resources Defense Council, Heal the Bay, Senator Barbara Boxer, Oceana, and Organic Style magazine all recognize her contributions. These were not minor acknowledgments. These were institutions honoring a journalist who had done real, lasting work. She served as a correspondent on NBC's primetime hit Unsolved Mysteries from 1994 to 1997. She appeared on Good Morning America on ABC as a gardening expert and environmental correspondent. She covered entertainment news for NBC's Today Show, CBS's Entertainment Tonight, and HBO's World Entertainment Report. She created and hosted Home Green Home for PBS, an eco-focused series centered on sustainable living. She produced and hosted Great Bears for the Outdoor Life Network. She eventually stepped behind the camera entirely, directing and producing the award-winning documentary Poisoning Paradise in 2017, a film that investigated the devastating health consequences of experimental pesticide use by biotechnology companies on the island of Kauai, Hawaii, a place where she and Pierce owned property and raised their family. This was not a woman without a story. She was a woman whose story had been deliberately ignored in favor of a simpler, crueler narrative. When Keely Shaye Smith met Pierce Brosnan, she was already an established journalist with a visible career and a clear sense of who she was. Their meeting happened on April 8, 1994, on a beach in Mexico. Pierce was there by chance. Keely was there for work. Neither of them knew that date would become one they would celebrate for the next 3 decades. She later described him as captivating, with what she called a mischievous sparkle in his eyes. But beneath that charm, she saw something quieter, a man carrying grief, a man shaped by loss. Pierce had recently buried his first wife, Cassandra Harris, who died from ovarian cancer after years of surgeries and chemotherapy. He had been left to raise 3 children, Cassandra's 2 kids from a previous marriage, Charlotte and Christopher, whom he had legally adopted, and his own son Sean. He was a man famous for playing the world's most invincible spy. yet privately living through one of the most devastating experiences a human being can endure. He was not looking for a replacement. He was not looking for a fairy tale. He was looking, somewhere beneath it all, for peace. Keely gave him that. She stepped into his life not to erase what had come before, but to honor it. She embraced his children as her own. She encouraged him, as he later said in an interview with the Irish Times, to mourn Cassandra fully, to grieve honestly, to not rush past the pain. Keely has always been kind and compassionate and encouraged me to mourn Cassie, he said. I suppose Keely is my North Star, always looking out for me. They had 2 sons together, Dylan Thomas Brosnan, born in January 1997, and Paris Beckett Brosnan. They married on August 4, 2001, in a ceremony at Ballintubber Abbey in County Mayo, Ireland. From the outside, it looked like a romance made for the movies. From the inside, it was something more honest and more complicated than any script could capture. It was 2 people choosing each other with full knowledge of what love actually costs. But the world was already watching, and the world was already forming its verdict. As Keely's body changed after the birth of her children, post-pregnancy weight gain compounded by reported thyroid complications and hormonal imbalance, the public conversation around her became something deeply ugly. Comment sections sharpened. Tabloid headlines reduced her to a body to be critiqued. Online discussions questioned why Pierce stayed. Some people suggested surgery. Others implied that she had somehow violated a public contract by gaining weight. The cruelty was not a one-time event. It was sustained, normalized, and profitable for the publications that trafficked in it. Pierce did not retreat from her. Not once. He went on record repeatedly, declaring without hesitation that he found his wife beautiful, that he loved her curves, that no amount of public commentary would change how he saw the woman he had chosen. In one now famous Facebook post that has since been deleted, he wrote that friends had offered Keely surgery to reduce her weight, and that he had strongly rejected the idea because he loved every curve of her body. When the world mocked him for saying it, he kept saying it anyway. Meanwhile, Keely said almost nothing. She did not release defensive statements. She did not argue with strangers online. She did not explain her body to a public that had no right to an explanation. In a 2006 interview with Vogue, she stated plainly that she never shied away from her curves, that she never hid herself in baggy clothing, and that she had no intention of apologizing for the body she lived in. That was not defiance to the cameras. That was a woman who had already decided who she was, long before the internet told her otherwise. Even as a commentary about her appearance continued unchecked, Keely was quietly doing things that mattered far more than any tabloid ever noticed. Together with Pierce, she spent years working with the Natural Resources Defense Council and the International Fund for Animal Welfare to stop a proposed salt factory from being built at Laguna San Ignacio in Baja California, Mexico, a fight they waged from 1995 to 2000 and ultimately won. In 2007, the couple successfully fought the proposed Cabrillo Port liquefied natural gas facility off the coast of Oxnard and Malibu, a project that would pose serious environmental risks. The State Land Commission ultimately denied the lease. That same year, they donated $100,000 to help rebuild a playground on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. In 2009, both Keely and Pierce visited the White House to support legislation aimed at closing loopholes in international commercial and scientific whaling, and they testified before the Environmental Protection Agency in support of the American Clean Energy and Security Act. They sponsored Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program for youth. They committed to environmental education for students from kindergarten through 12th grade. Keely's Instagram biography, which she curates herself, describes her as a director, producer, documentary filmmaker, journalist, activist, philanthropist, and organic gardener. Every word of that description is earned. None of it made the headlines that her weight did. This is a part of the story that demands to be said out loud, because it is a part that reveals everything wrong with the way the media and the public chose to engage with her. The woman being mocked for her appearance in comment sections was simultaneously testifying before the EPA, fighting corporate polluters, and directing award-winning documentary films about communities poisoned by pesticide companies. The disconnect is not subtle. It is enormous, and it was entirely deliberate. In 2024, Keely Shaye Smith began appearing in public with a noticeably transformed physique. Reports indicated she had lost a significant amount of weight, estimates placing the total at approximately 100 pounds, achieved not through surgery or rapid intervention, but through sustained lifestyle changes, a shift to whole, nutrient-dense foods, the elimination of processed options, consistent physical activity including strength training, cardiovascular exercise, yoga, and meditation. She did not announce it. She did not release a weight loss plan. She did not partner with a brand or explain herself to a media apparatus that had spent years getting her wrong. She simply appeared, confident and composed, living the same life she had always lived, and let the photographs speak for themselves. The reaction was immediate and, in its own way, deeply uncomfortable to observe. The same publications and comment sections that had spent years treating her body as a problem suddenly treated it as a triumph. Headlines that had once been cruel became suddenly warm. The tone shifted as though nothing had ever happened, as though the jokes had never been made, as though the years of commentary had been a dream. The clearest moment came at the Mobland premiere in New York City on March 31st, 2025. Pierce, 71 years old and starring in a new Paramount Plus crime drama alongside Tom Hardy and Helen Mirren, told reporters simply that it was date night with Keely, adding warmly that they had not seen each other in 3 months while he was filming. Keely, 61 years old, stood beside him in that black lace minidress, radiant and at ease, and the cameras could not look away. Hello, magazine praised her stunning new look. The Daily Mail ran photographs. Entertainment outlets flooded social media with coverage. But here's what Pierce Brosnan said that week that cut through all the noise, not about Keely's appearance, but about their marriage. Asked about the secret to their enduring bond, he told reporters, "We like each other a lot. We love each other a lot. But watching someone grow up with you and grow old with you is a very spiritual journey." He added that she still makes his heart sing, that she still makes his world turn, that the life they have built together is held together not by admiration for each other's appearance, but by genuine enjoyment of each other's company and a shared willingness to solve problems together. Those words did not become more true after Keely's weight loss. They were always true. The difference is that the world was finally quiet enough to hear them. There is one chapter of Keely's story that the world has been even slower to acknowledge, and it is the one that perhaps reveals her character most clearly. In 2013, Pierce lost his daughter Charlotte to ovarian cancer, the same disease that had taken Cassandra years before. The cruelty of that repetition is difficult to put into words. A man who had already lived through the devastation of watching a loved one be consumed by that illness was forced to live through it again, this time watching his daughter fight and ultimately lose the same battle. Pierce spoke about Charlotte's death with a tenderness that revealed just how deeply that loss reopened old wounds. But behind his public grief was a woman who did not step forward for recognition. Keely did what she had always done. She stayed. She became the steady center of a family that grief threatened to fracture. She carried the emotional weight that cameras are incapable of measuring and that headlines have no language for. And she did it without asking for applause. That is what long-term love actually looks like. Not the red carpet photographs. Not the anniversary tributes. Not the public declarations. It looks like showing up in the hardest moments, holding the structure together when everything inside wants to give way, and choosing, again and again, to remain present when remaining present is the hardest thing in the world. When Keely Shaye Smith appeared at that Mobland premiere in April 2025, looking undeniably stunning in that black lace dress, the world celebrated her. And she deserved to be celebrated. But not for the reasons most of the coverage suggested. She deserved to be celebrated because she spent more than 30 years as a working journalist and filmmaker while being reduced to a body in the press. She deserved to be celebrated because she directed a documentary that gave a voice to families in Kauai whose children had been born with health defects linked